The problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't. I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference.
What's
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist?
In this video, Sam Seder obliterates this MAGA guest in this brutal live debate showdown. So Sam gets confronted with one of those classic theocratic talking points. You know, the whole without God, morality is just a preference thing. And honestly, this is where the debate just gets really telling. Because instead of offering anything concrete, the guest just leans on this tired religious authority framing that basically says my morality is valid because God says so. And Sam doesn't just push back, he lays out a humanist foundation built on minimizing suffering and maximizing well-being. That's not only coherent, it's actually testable in real-world outcomes, unlike the guy's because God said so stance. And the funny part is, the guest thinks he's dropping some deep philosophical gotcha, but it just ends up exposing how flimsy his whole framework really is. So make sure to watch till the end to see how Sam Seder obliterates this MAGA guest in this brutal live debate showdown.
Utilitarian?
I don't really posit here now. They couldn't have known this, I don't think.
That guy could be a Tim Pool fan.
It's possible, but this, of course, was the whole gotcha that Tim Pool had. And what I should have said in this moment is, I'm like Thanos.
But you did laugh because
I did laugh. No, it totally occurred to me that this was like about Tim Pool, but nobody else was going to get that. But here's the thing. Here's what he's saying to me. And I don't think I really understood what he was getting at until much later in this conversation. But what he's getting at is he's arguing that his version of religious fundamentalism is the most sound version of how you should have, provides for him the most sound vision of how life should be and how people should be organized. And he's trying to make the point when he says, like, you have no morality, it's just preference. Ultimately, it is a preference. I mean, one's vision of the world is a preference. I like my vision, he likes his vision. His argument is that his vision is better than mine because it has a foundation in a moral code developed by God. And that mine is just flimsy because it's not developed by God or whatever version of God that I have. Just continue. Just keep that in mind. That's what he's trying to get at. But let him speak, because it takes me a while to sort of like realize, oh, this is, okay, I see what you're saying. You're telling me that your version of religious fundamentalism, because this guy could have been a fundamentalist Muslim, he could have been a fundamentalist Jew who would have a different sense of how we should live our lives. He could have been a Hindu, he could have been a Buddhist. Now, some of these religions don't impose in the same way that this guy wants to do. But just understand, like, I could have gotten to this much quicker if I had understood sort of where he was headed, and I would have conceded. Yes, it's a preference. We have different preferences.
So right here, the guy thinks he's being clever by tossing around terms like utilitarian, as if somehow just saying that word is some kind of knockout blow. But then you've got Sam pausing, clearly trying to figure out where this guy's even going with it. And honestly, that says a lot, because the guy isn't really arguing in good faith. He's just circling around the same morality with God collapses line. And when Sam unpacks it, he nails exactly what's happening. The guy's entire framework rests on this idea that because his morality has a divine stamp, it's somehow superior to any humanist foundation. The funny part is, though, like Sam points out, that could be any religion making that claim. It could be a fundamentalist Christian, a fundamentalist Muslim, or even a hardcore Hindu theocrat. The structure of the argument is identical. My God says it, so it's the ultimate truth. And that's where the weakness here in this guy's argument. Because once you admit every religion could run that play, that's not a universal moral truth. It's just a preference among many. Sam even admits he could have cut through this faster by just conceding, yeah, it's just a preference. But that's still stronger than the guest's position, because at least Sam's framework is grounded in real-world impacts, reducing suffering and maximizing well-being.
I continue.
With being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a
Yes.
democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean, it would be
They would be morally right under your
not
view.
morally right. No. I'm not
Okay.
talking about morals.
Okay, so here's where I'm
Here's the
getting to,
thing,
right?
is that this guy wants to organize civil society under a set of morals. Now, he wants them to be his morals. And from my perspective, you organize civil society under a sense of justice. And on some level, egalitarianism. And that's where we start to have this difference. But he wants me to live in his frame, and I'm not quite fully understanding what he's trying to argue here. But yes, it is a set of preferences, and now he moves on to try and say his preferences are better. And he's trying to give me these hypotheticals as to, what is the basis of you being against, everybody arguing that trans people should not exist?
Can I say this is fundamentally anti-American? You don't need a God to believe your morality has any kind of foundation. But you know what doesn't have a foundation in this country is theocracy. All the founding fathers were theists.
I think that's self-evidently true. They had the opportunity to set it up as a theocracy, and they didn't do it.
No, we have separation of church and state.
They wrote against it.
In fact, they were rejecting a king. And in societies that have a king, they are the number 2 person in the universe with power. Number 1 is God, who delegates to the king, who then delegates out. Understand that like feudalism and monarchy, those are all religious constructs.
And
They are all religious constructs. And so fundamentally, theocracy is contrary to American life. But that's not the argument that he wants to make. He's trying to make an argument that religious fundamentalism, his version, incidentally, religious Christianity, and not just religious Christianity, but fundamental Christianity as he understands it, is the best system on its merits. And I don't fully realize he's trying to make this argument yet.
So right here is where the guest really shows his hand. He tries to corner Sam with that what if society votes away trans rights hypothetical. Like dude thinks he's crafted the ultimate trap. If morality is just a preference, that society could strip people's rights and you'd have no grounds to object. But Sam pushes back immediately, pointing out that his view of civil society isn't rooted in religious dogma, but in simple justice. And honestly, that's the whole difference. The guest is trying to force Sam into this theological frame when Sam's position is built around a democratic, pluralistic one. And that's why Sam has the stronger grounding here. His preference is justice, equality, and democratic decision-making. The guest's preference is imposing one religious vision on everyone else. That's not just flimsy, it's anti-American at its core. So the whole what if society bans trans right bit isn't some checkmate move, It just reveals that the guy's worldview only makes sense if you ignore history, democracy, and basic freedom.
All right, but continue.
Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off
I
of.
believe you can have an ethical framework without
and
religion.
if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates, you have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation.
Okay, pause it right there. So now all of a sudden he's the utilitarian. He's the consequentialist, right? If you take leftist views here and you don't follow God's prescripts, again, as he understands it, then we have low birth rates.
Yep.
Okay. As a utilitarian, this guy should know, like, well, all right, maybe in theory, but that's not a danger. The reason why we have low birth rates is not because of gay marriage. In fact, as gay marriage has progressed, we've seen higher birth rates amongst those people.
I mean, he just made that case about surrogacy.
Exactly.
I'll just say the highest birth rate, if we're going by religions, is Muslims. So maybe they have a secret.
Okay.
They don't like
I mean,
that part.
honestly, that's the thing is he switches to a utilitarian perspective because he wants to argue that his Christian fundamentalism is the best way to organize society. And it's a theocracy. And you can say reject theocracy based upon it not being American in that sense. But ultimately, it is a preference. He's decided to organize society around stuff that he has interpreted or he's been told how to interpret in a book that was written a long time ago. Religion certainly, I was raised Jewish. Religion certainly informs parts of my worldview, without a doubt. I don't know if I could disaggregate it and say which one it does, but certainly aspects of it do. My Jewish schooling definitely does. You know, I happen to have been exposed to the Holocaust more than your average person who's not Jewish as a kid. That informed my thinking. There are a lot of things that inform my thinking. It is not, and I don't even have to make the argument that I think it's better if you're not constrained by a book written by somebody who was aspiring to power 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. I don't even have to make that argument because we can just do it on its merits. We can just say, my preferences are that women are not subjugated and are not second-class citizen. My preferences are that people have the right to express themselves in their sexuality. My preferences are that people are treated the same regardless of whether they're gay or straight in terms of marriage. My preferences are that if you are a member of civil society, you follow those laws. So if abortion is legal, if contraception is legal, you don't get an out if you want to be a pharmacist and not provide that.
And this is where the guest just completely collapses under his own argument. He tries to pivot into utilitarianism, suddenly claiming religion is necessary because otherwise you'll end up with low birth rates and a dead-end society. Like, that's such a lazy scare tactic, blaming queer people or leftists for declining birth rates when in reality, the actual causes are economic pressure, housing costs, childcare, and wages. Sam grounds his arguments in real-world outcomes and human freedom, while the guest just hides behind hypotheticals and fear tactics. It's a classic distraction move, pretending morality collapses without God, when really it's about trying to enforce one narrow religious vision on everyone else. And that's the real bias here, taking personal faith and dressing it up as universal truth. And speaking of bias,
are you getting tired of getting news from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite? How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, whether it's left, right, or center, are covering the same story, so you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get a 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights in media bias and political trends. So stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.